The best location for setting up a factory or organization can be solved using the Brown-Gibson method. There are several methods out there, but Brown-Gibson method is quite common. Now look at the question. The Citibank decided to relocate its New York branch office to another city. Now we have three alternative cities out there: Paris, Berlin, and Rome. Now, the total annual costs are estimated as follows. For Paris, it is 5.7 million US dollars, and for Berlin, it is 6.2 million, and for Rome, it is 5.3 million. Now, you may think that Berlin would be the worst city to relocate the branch because it will cost more annually. But the the relocation is not only depends only on annual cost. It depends on many factors, like some of the factors are given here: government bureaucracy, political stability, and service availability. Now we'll talk about this table later. Now we have to calculate the objective factors as subjective factors and be selecting the best city by Brown-Gibson method. Now if we look at the formula, that is location preference measure by the that is given by Brown-Gibson is equal to k times objective factor plus 1 minus k times subjective factors. Now what is objective factors and what is subjective factors, we'll see it now, but the k is a constant that is given in the question. Now first we have to calculate the objective factors, because we want to objective is our goal is to calculate the LPM value for each site, and the city with the highest LPM value will be the best city for the relocation. Now before calculating objective factors, the formula for objective factors is Ci summation of 1 by Ci whole to the power minus 1. What is Ci? This is the cost per annual year. This will be the Ci value for each city. Now for Paris, Ci value is 5.7, for Berlin 6.2, for Rome 5.3. Now we have to take the reciprocals of this value: 1 by 5.7, 1 by 6.2, 1 by 5.3, and take the summation of the reciprocals. Now for objective factors, 5.7 times 1 by Ci, 6.2 times summation of 1 by Ci, 5.3 times summation of 1 by Ci, and whole to the power minus 1. You have to be careful because some of the students would not put the whole by minus 1 here, but minus 1 is included in the formula. So after completing the objective factors, we have found that objective factors for Paris was 0.33289, objective factor for Berlin was 0.30604, and objective factor for Rome was 0.35801. Now this is a cross check, nothing else. You don't have to include this in your exam. You can include this or not, it is your decision. Now what is cross check? The total value, the summation of the objective factors, all the objective factors would be 1. If it is not 1, then we have made a mistake. We have to recheck it again. We have recheck the formula. We have to recheck the value. Now we have calculated the objective factor. Now we have to calculate the subjective factor in order to calculating the LPM value. Now for the subjective factors, we have 3 subjective factors given here: government bureaucracy, political stability, and service availability. Now all these views are equally important. This line is also important because before calculating the subjective factors, we have a formula for subjective factors also. That is, subjective factors is summation of weight factor times relative factor. Now what is weight factor? How much weight of influence these subjective factors have over one another. Suppose we have 3 subjective factors: government bureaucracy, political stability, and service availability. We want to compare each of the subjective factors with one another, and we cannot compare 3 subjective factors at a time, because comparison is better when we compare 2 things at a time. That's why we take a combination from these 3 factors. First of all, government bureaucracy versus political stability, GB versus PA. Then government bureaucracy versus service availability, and we did not include political stability here. GB versus SA, and lastly political stability and service availability, and we did not include government bureaucracy here. That's why for finding the weight of influence factor, we took the subjective factors government bureaucracy, political stability, service availability in column-wise formation. Now, for first pair-wise comparison, GB versus PS, and we did not include service availability. That's why GB we have to put a value 1, and political stability also 1, because all the subjective factors were equally important. That's why if we give a value of government bureaucracy 1, we have to put the value for 1. We have to put the value 1 for political stability as well. And serviceability was not involved, that's why it is a dash. Now you may some of people put 0 here. It is wrong method, because serviceability was not involved, that's why you have to put a dash here, not a 0. Now column wise pair comparison, first pair was done. The second pair, government bureaucracy versus service availability. Now government bureaucracy 1, service availability 1, and we did not included political stability, that's why it is a dash. Now third pair, political stability versus service availability. Political stability, service availability 1, column wise, and government bureaucracy was not involved, that's why it is. Now if what would happen if we had that all the subject factors were not equally important, that what would happen? Now suppose we have a condition that government bureaucracy has the highest influence, then political stability has medium influence, then service availability has the lowest influence. Then what would be the pairwise comparison? Then for the first pair, service availability would be same, not involved, GB versus PS. And since government bureaucracy has the highest influence, it would be we would give the value 1, and political stability is lower than government bureaucracy, it would we would denote as a 0. We would put here as a 0. Then again for the second pair of comparison, government bureaucracy versus service availability, political stability was not involved, then we would put a dash. Government bureaucracy has the highest and higher than serviceability, that's why we would give it a 1 value, and serviceability is lower than government bureaucracy. If the subject factor were not equally important, then we would put a 0 value, and so on. But here all the subject factors are equally important, that's why we put the same value. We denoted the same value for each subject factors. Now sum of preference, we take the pairwise comparison in column, but we have to take the sum of preference in row. In a row, total sum is 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 1 is 2. Now total sum of preference is 6. The weight factor will be 6, 2 by 6, because in first row we have the value 2, in second row we have also the value 2, in third row we have also the value 2, 2 by 6, 2 by 6, 2 by 6. Since all the subject factors were equally important, that's why we have founded the same value for same weight factor value for each of the subject factors. That means how much influence, that means government bureaucracy has 33% influence for taking decision. Same for political stability and service availability. Now we have a shortcut here. If we consider this table, how much 1 do we have in this table? First one, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth one, total 6 1. That's why we put it 6. Then how much 1 the first row has? First one has second one, only 2 1. That means we will put the value 2 by 6. Same for second row, same for third row. And again cross check, the weight factor for total weight factor would be 1, the summation would be 1, and if we made a mistake, then it would not add up as 1. Now, subject factors we made from formula we calculate the weight factor. Now we have to calculate the RIJ factor. For RIJ factor, we again want to look at the question. Now you should not be confused with this number because these are the index number, nothing else. Our table starts from here. This is the table for Paris, Berlin, and Rome, and this table is for government bureaucracy, and we want to draw this tables separately for government bureaucracy for Paris, Berlin, and Rome. The same table you have drawn 0 1 dash 1 dash 0 dash 1 1, same table for government bureaucracy. Paris comparison for Paris 0 1 dash 1 dash 0 dash 1 1, the same table. Again the shortcut for calculating RIJ factor, take this table. How much one this table contains? First one, second one, third one, and fourth one. Total 4 1. And how much one the first row contains? First one, only one. That means 1 by 4. And RIJ factor for government bureaucracy for Paris is 0.25. RIJ factor for government bureaucracy for Berlin is 0.5. RIJ factor for government bureaucracy for Rome is 0.25. And same goes for political stability. We will take this table also only. One dash political stability factor 2 political stability 1 dash. Same we will take the table, calculate the total number of 1, it is 4, and calculate the total number of 1 in the first row, it is 2 by 4. RIJ factor for political stability for Paris would be 0.5. RIJ factor for Berlin for political stability is 0.25, and so on. And same goes for service availability. Now we have calculated the WJ factors and RIJ factors, and we will calculate the subject factors for Paris, for Berlin, and Rome, because in the formula objective factors and subjective factors we will need to calculate the LPM value. We have calculated the objective factors for each city, Paris, for Berlin, for Rome, and we want to calculate the subjective factors for each city, Paris, Berlin, and Rome. Now we made a summary table from this. Government bureaucracy RIJ factors for Paris, for government bureaucracy, how was it? RIJ factors for government bureaucracy for Paris was 0.25. That's why RIJ factor for government bureaucracy for Paris is 0.25. Now RIJ factor for Paris political stability, what was it? RIJ factor for Paris political stability was 0.5. That's why we put a 0.5. And RIJ factor for service availability was 0. Service availability RIJ factor for Paris was 0. That's why we put a 0. It is just a summary table. Now after putting all the value for each city and each factor and weight of influence factor 0.333, if we look at the formula, subjective factors is equal to summation of WJ times RIJ. Now WJ, weight of influence, government bureaucracy, times weight of influence RIJ factors for government bureaucracy, weight of influence times political stability, weight of influence time service availability. This is for Paris. Again, weight of influence times government bureaucracy, weight of influence time times political stability, weight of influence for serviceability, weight of influence for RIJ factor for serviceability. This is for Berlin. Weight of influence for government bureaucracy was 0.333. Weight of influence RIJ factor for government bureaucracy 0.25. Weight of influence for political stability is 0.333. Service availability political stability RIJ factor is 0.25. Weight of influence for service availability was 0.333, and RIJ factor for service availability was 0.33 for Rome. This is the for Rome. Just after calculating this, 0.24975 was the substitute factor for Paris. For Berlin it is 0.47286. For Rome it was 0.27639. Now again cross check the total substitute factors value, summation would be 1. Now we have calculated the objective factors and subjective factors. Now we need k value for finding the LPM value. Now k value is given in the question, where you see this line. It is also considered that objective factors are equally important as subjective factors. What does that mean? That means k is associated with objective factors. That's why we written k times OF. 1 minus k is associated with subjective factors. That's why we written 1 minus k times subjective factors. That means if we take the ratio k by 1 minus k and we would give a value for k is 1, we also have to give a value for 1 minus k is also 1, because both are equally important. That's why. And we cross multiply this and we would find the k value is 0.5. Now what would happen if we have objective factors are twice as important as subjective factors? Same, k by 1 minus k is associated with objective factors. That's why objective factors are twice. That's why we would give the value k is 2 and 1 minus k is 1. So again cross multiply, we would find the value k is equal to 0.67. Now if we have the alternative, subjective factors are 3 times as important as objective factors. Again k by 1 minus k, subjective factors is associated with 1 minus k. That means 1 minus k is 3 times. That means 1 minus k would be 3. Here I have made a mistake. This is not correct. This would be correct formula. K 1 minus k is equal to subjective factors are 3 times and subjective factors are associated with 1 minus k. That's why here will be 3 and here will be 1. And if we cross multiply again, we could find the k value. Now a lot of people memorize the k value for each condition, but we don't have to memorize it. We will just use your brain and calculate it. Now we have found the k value, objective factors value, subjective factors value. Now LPM value for Paris, LPM value for Berlin, LPM value for Rome we can measure. The k value was 0.5 for all 3 cities. Objective factors for Paris was 0.33289 and subjective factors for Paris was 0.24975. Same, k 0.5, objective factor for Paris was 0.33289 plus 1 minus 0.5, subjective factor for Paris was 0.24975, and the result would be 0.29132. And the same way LPM for Berlin and LPM for Rome, again cross check, the total value will be 1. No necessity to include it in the exam. And since the LPM value for Berlin is the greatest value, that means according to Brown Gibson, best site is Berlin. So see, first we thought that Berlin is the worst city to relocate the branch because it costs more annually, but it is found out that Berlin is the best city considering all the factors we have. Thank you everyone.